Welcome to the Sarah Scoop Show. It's time to get the scoop with Sarah.
Hi, I'm Collin Blackford. I am an actor and I live in Colorado, but I work out of New Mexico and LA. My most recent work is a movie called Stargirl, which you can find on Disney Plus, in which I play the character Benny Burrito. I started doing theater, and I did that when I think I did my first school play in first grade. So I was like six, I think. And I really liked it. So I went to my parents and I was like, hey, this is something I kind of want to do again. So I did theater for about 4 years with Rocky Mountain Conservatory Theater. It was a group out here with Anthony Hubert. I love theater, but the problem with theater in Colorado is that there's not a lot of opportunities. And the opportunities are like, hey, you need to be at this place every single day for 3 hours for 3 weeks straight, which is just something I didn't want to commit to, considering I do other things in my life too. And there isn't a ton of opportunities also. So I was like, hey, I kind of want to try out film. I think I started that when I was 9. And then, I got my first agent out here and started taking classes with Patrick Sheridan. And then I got my agent in New Mexico through a showcase with fellow actor Marty Lindsay. And out of the 15 kids of us that went down to New Mexico for a showcase in front of agents, I was the only kid who got signed. I think it was a student film with the Colorado Film School. If I'm right, oh, actually no, it was a voiceover I did. It's a film called Apple Seeds. It's a short 5-minute video. It's still on YouTube, I think. That I actually watch from time to time to see how high my voice was. That was the first thing I did, and then I started with short films and student films just to get screen time and stuff. That's the nice thing that I can say, that auditioning for a lot of student films for the first couple years of acting, now auditions, they're not really nerve-wracking for me anymore, which is, of course, when it's bigger ones, it's always nerve-wracking, which is a good thing. But after having that experience of going into a bunch of auditions that, in the big sense, don't really matter, you feel comfortable going into other ones. So I don't really walk into auditions feeling that nervousness anymore of okay, I'm confident in my abilities. And now that I'm taping usually for everything now, especially with this, that's always a cooler way to audition too. So. They're totally different. There's things I really, really like about big productions like Stargirl, and things that I really like about student films. The thing of student films is that, and independence is that there's no they're not SAG, so there's no laws work. So you can literally, I've had shoots where I've been filming from 8 a.m. till 2 at night, and you're in sometimes not very good places. But that kind of shows, it's out of the people who are doing it because they just want to act, and people who are actually doing it because they love it. Because for me, I usually never complain. I mean, there are certain times when it's just this is ridiculous because you've been doing the same shot for 3 hours. But most of the times, those are some of my most fondest memories, are just filming with people who I really got to know well, and you're filming till 2 a.m. and I never complained. I always thought those were so much fun because it was just fun just to act. And that's what I always liked. Now, on the other side, when you're in big productions, it is totally different because you have hey, we have 9.5 hours, we have to shoot here. And those are a lot nicer because hey, I'm gonna be out of here in this, I know the specific time period I'm gonna be shooting in. Of course, you have better catering and all of that. And the experiences are totally different, and they have their ups and their downs to them. But I mean, I wouldn't go back and be oh, I hated doing those student films. I loved doing them. They were so much fun to me. There's always that calling to me when I look online and I'm oh, here's the student film, but I can't do it because it's not union. And while I look back and I look on those memories with fondness, I do feel going into the next stage is always important. And not saying that if there was a good short film that was union that I wouldn't do it, because I always think those are fun. I think that was a part of my life that I can look back on with fondness, but I think it's time that I can go on to other things. I can definitely say that the best group of people I've ever gotten along with was on Stargirl. Just everyone together was so much fun. The cast, the crew, the producers, Julia and Jordan, everyone. Still people I talk to almost every day, the cast. that was definitely the most fun. I've made, I mean, of course, I've made other friends in Colorado and acting, but that's the one group of people that we all bonded the best, and it's people I still keep in contact with to this day. A lot, it really just depends on like the group of kids you get. The nice thing with this is that when we all first got together, it was really natural. So the main four of me, Graham, Karn, and Anna, the main friend group, we went out for the table read together and we had met and we had done a photo shoot the next day. So we kind of got to know each other then. And then the first day when like the whole like group of 13 of us kids and kid adults were all on set together, and we all had lunch together. That was like the moment when everyone was like, wow. And we had just all clicked. Like there was no like awkwardness and everyone just immediately got together. And that was super, super cool. And so it was really a no-brainer that we were going to start hanging out. And I think we did an escape room like the next day and we went to like this arcade place. But a lot of times it can be awkward if just it depends on the group of people. But this it was not at all. Everyone just got together and was immediately just really close. Yeah, so it was in Albuquerque, and it's a place that I've been to audition, but not really. I drive 6.5 hours down for a 5 minute audition and 6.5 hours back, so I don't really spend a lot of time there. But yeah, it was. So there was a couple people that were local there who could kind of show us around because they lived there. And then I remember I think some days we went up to Santa Fe together, but usually whenever we had off days or we didn't shoot till like the afternoon, we would be doing stuff, or we finish at night. We would be hanging out at someone's hotel room in like the plaza, or we would go down to like downtown Albuquerque and walk around, or we went to this cool place called the Grove, which is a bunch of like old shipping containers that they had like emptied out, and they had like a bunch of restaurants and stuff in there. And we went there, I think we must have been there like 5, 6 times, and it was just so much fun. And you really found out. I think we went hiking one day, so we pretty much went everywhere around the city. And the last day, the day of filming the dance scene was on one of their country clubs there. So I mean, we got a really good feel of the city, which was really cool considering we were pretty much filming for about a month and a half. And when we have those off days, we would usually do that together. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely cool to go to places where I mean, if I hadn't been for this, I don't think I ever would have spent a month and a half in Albuquerque willingly. Doing that actually gave me a cool sense of this is actually a really cool place. And you got to know a lot of like cool places there and meet really cool people there. To now it's like, hey, if I ever go to Albuquerque, there's people I'm going to stop by and see. And I'm going to call up this person to go see them. And if we ever need anywhere to stay, we have places to stay. And that's really cool that I know that there's like a place that's kind of like a second home for me. I would love a good mixture of both, and I know a lot of people say that, but and drama and comedy are both something that I really like both of them. Comedy is always something I feel like it's naturally come to me really well, and I really love that dry, sarcastic sense of humor that my whole family even lives on. So that's always something that I've always loved to do. But then I think there's something just natural and really cool about dramas too that you really can't recreate. And I think both of those are just something I would love to go into. And I really couldn't pick one that was my favorite. I mean, if there was a dream director I'd work with, it would be Christopher Nolan. I mean, that guy is just amazing. Christopher Nolan film is Dark Knight. That's my favorite movie of all time. I think I've watched that movie like 30 times. And then I just watched Inception for the first time last week, and that blew my mind. And I don't think there's a movie of his I don't like. Favorite comedy? Right now, I'd probably go with Office Space. So I think that movie is just hilarious, and I'm sure if I ever get a working job, it'll just become even more retroactively funny. But yeah, right now that's my favorite comedy. In my heart of hearts, I would love to be Frodo, but then I don't think they ever should remake those movies because they're timeless and they're perfect. I don't know. If they ever did it, it would be Frodo. But for me, actually, it would probably be Sam. Sam's the real hero of the story. It would probably be Sam. But I would never remake those movies. They're perfect to me. I feel like it would be hurting their legacy to remake them. It definitely it can be difficult at times. This year for me especially was hard, and I had to take a break on a lot of auditions and stuff because it was my junior year, and I took a pretty hard course load. And this is the year I was like, I was like, hey, Stargirl is going to come out at some point this year. I really just need to focus on school right now. And I've taken the ACT, and especially with all this that went down, keeping my grades up during that. And I'm taking AP classes and focusing on those. And next year I am taking a lighter course load so I can audition more and do that. Usually it's never easy, but it's doable. Sophomore year when I actually filmed, I missed about a month and a half of school, like total. And like the day we found out I got it, we went to the principal and we were like, hey, here's a schedule of all these times I'm going to be gone. And I printed that out and I met with all my teachers and I'm like, this is when I'm going to be gone. This is when I'm going to be back. And so I was able to like work with them. And then with the onset tutors, I could do my schoolwork there. And now that every class is online because of this, I'm sure that if I ever had to leave for another opportunity, teachers would be more willing to work with me and do that. It can be difficult, especially playing basketball and going to an academically rigorous school and then being like, hey, hi guys, I got to go to a workshop for 3 hours. But it's something that I always appreciate. I feel like I always work better when have a busy schedule than when I'm not doing anything. Pretty much played my whole life. It's something my brother played, and I played sports my whole life. It's something that I really like doing, and I think that's important too because I know a lot of kids that are out that I've heard of kids in LA. They're like, and I've done workshops with teachers, and they're like, hey, these kids are great, but they only act, and that's like they don't go to school. All they do is act, and that's just it. And I think it's important to have that other side where it's like, hey, I go to high school too. I deal with all these problems that other kids deal with. I play basketball too. That also helps me just from a acting sense to draw from stuff too, because I have like all these memories that I can and experiences that I can help draw from. And I think that's something really cool. And it's something I've been doing my whole life and I hope to keep doing. Yeah. I think it does. Especially coming from someone who's in high school and sees through all of that. I think that the theme that has been said a lot, but I think it's very realistically done in this movie of being true to yourself, and that is something that I think every kid can relate to. I think everyone goes through a point in their life where they're like, "Hey, I'm going to conform because that's the cool thing to do is to do this." And everyone kind of realizes that moment when they don't need to. And I can kind of attest that to me is that I never really told people I acted except for like my close friends knew, because of course they knew. But majority of people just didn't know. Like they'd known that I had done theater in like elementary school, but that was about it. Then once I got this, then everyone kind of found out and I kind of realized I was like, I don't really care if people know now. So now everyone knows. And that's something that I've kind of come out of my shell and I don't really hide that anymore. And even for me, that's something that I went through filming this movie. And I think that just shows how prevalent the message is and how relatable it is for everyone in high school. Well, I get called movie star a lot, which is sometimes funny and sometimes old. But yeah, no, it's really cool and then it's cool to see the like sometimes when my teachers find out and they're like, you're an actor, and I'm like, yeah, they're like, I literally never would have guessed. And I think that's really cool too. Is I do my best to try to not showboat it and be like, oh, I'm in this movie. I do my best to just be like, hey, I'm a normal kid too. And that's what I want people to see me as first, just a normal kid. I don't want you to treat me any different. I can definitely say that I still feel like a normal kid. And it's not like people are just all the time shouting at me and be like, oh my gosh, you're in a movie and blah, blah, blah. Especially after it came out, it was really kind of cool to see how many kids from my school just like got together in like groups of like 6 and just like watched the movie. And I'm like, that's really cool. And then just like send me the video. I'm like, that's really cool that people got together to watch this movie that I'm in. And then of course everything shut down because of quarantine. I thought for me that was something that I thought was really, really cool. And people I hadn't seen in years reaching out to me and saying they thought I did a great job was also really cool. That would be fun. Actually, I had a one like line part in a Netflix movie that was about basketball like 3 years ago. And my line was like student one, and I'm like, oh, this room, it's over here. And that was like my one line. And we waited a year and a half for it to come out. Watched it, and my part got cut. And then that happened. I don't know if that was a bad sign, but in the future, of course, that would be something really, really cool to kind of combine those two things. Yeah. Sometimes I can. A lot of them I kind of just look and I'm like, oh, it's kind of cheesy, or oh, yeah, this I understand this is gonna happen. There's some great ones. I think Coach Carter is a great example of a really good movie that's I think is really realistic. I mean, Hoosiers too is great, but there's some times when I see basketball scenes, and I think there's one scene in Stranger Things when they're playing basketball and Billy does like a under the legs layup. I think I saw the actor like never played basketball in his life, and he's like, it's the one time I got it right, and I'm like, yeah, I could kind of tell that's kind of a little out of nowhere. I also play guys volleyball at my school, this is their first year of doing it, which we were actually undefeated until the season got canceled. I do that. I play golf with my family a lot too. I actually do card tricks. Ever since I was a kid, I've been doing card tricks. I would just look up on YouTube different stuff. Me and Graham actually, he does them too, and so we would be on set together and we would do them for like all the producers and all of the like PAs and stuff like that. So that was something really fun. Yeah, I stay busy. School also keeps me pretty busy too. And now that the summer is finally here, it's a good time for me to focus on both my craft and then other parts, staying in shape and working out for basketball and spending that free time I have with my family and my friends. I want to go to college. I want to get a degree because I am going to a hard school and I know that getting an education is important. I'm trying to get and looking at LA schools right now. I visited LMU and UCLA. I loved them both. I do want to try to see if I can either graduate early or take or I've talked about maybe taking a gap year. It's just something that I want to be able to audition at least a little bit while I'm in LA, while I'm in college. But then my whole dream has always been to try to work and live and do this as a career. But I do think that having an education is really important. Also, one is a backup plan, and two, just I think having an education is really important and essential today. Probably like a business or economics degree, and that's something that I've always kind of had a passion for, something that I think that my skills apply well to. And that's also a very applicable degree, but something that I can just have and put on my resume and be like, this is something I also have in case I need to get a second job or just something I have as a person too. That's something I've always kind of had an interest in, and I think that I don't know if I necessarily have the greatest skill for it, but at some point in my life, I would love to do that. I'd love to be on the other side of the camera. I think that whole, especially after seeing Stargirl and seeing how, and being on set and seeing how many hundreds of people are involved with that, it just gave me a whole new kind of respect for the amount of work that goes into these films. I think we were in April of 2018. I did a tape audition for Kevin or Karan Barar's part. I didn't hear back, didn't do anything. And then it was August and I got a audition in New Mexico. We drove 6.5 hours down, me and my mom. I went in there and it was an audition. I didn't have a lot of lines, but I went in there and it was an audition where I did it once and they're like, oh, that's great. You think we need to see it again? No, I think we're good. I'm like, so either they loved me or they thought I was terrible and they were just nicely getting me out of there. I got in the car and I was like, I don't know how I did. We'll see. 6.5 hours back. It was a 2-minute audition. 2 weeks later, we get a call offering me the part. Mind blowing. That never happens. And so we went down for the table read and we got the script and we read it. And I met like the main cast and we read through it. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. He's eating food is kind of his thing. He's kind of a funny character I can have fun with. We did the table read, that was great. And then after the table read, the main producer, Jordan Horowitz, come up to me and Karan, who we're talking, he says, we're going to change one of the scripts. We want to give you more lines. And they completely rewrote the hot seat scene to have me in it. And I think that was the most fun scene to shoot for me. But that was really, really cool, is that they literally sat down and changed the scene to add more parts for me in there. The most fun scene to shoot. They had like the script and it ended about halfway through that scene and the rest of that scene was just ad-libbing. It was so much fun. I didn't eat a burrito for honestly 8 months after we filmed. Like we stopped filming in November. I did not eat a burrito till July, and that's not an exaggeration. But I never, it was never really the biggest problem for me. If I hadn't had the spit bucket, it would have been. But I feel like I can say that I did a good job of never really complaining. But having the spit bucket saved my life. I mean, I that thing was full of just half-eaten pieces of burrito. I felt so bad for the person who had to come over and keep giving me the bucket. I was just like, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for this. It was honestly kind of fun to do that. And I mean, I remember at one point I was supposed to eat hot dogs and I blew through like 4 in like half an hour. And God, this kid keeps eating hot dogs. I need to get him more. But yeah, that was something actually. There was times when it got old, but they did a really good job of giving me food that wasn't like terrible and like asking me what I wanted and stuff like that. So eat as much as him. But the way he kind of has a sarcastic sense of humor is something that I definitely have in life and I kind of brought to the role. But it was kind of cool to play someone who is kind of not really a loner, but someone who kind of is the end of the stick of all the jokes. Something outside of my brother making fun of me, is never usually something that happens a lot. So that was actually kind of cool. That kind of dry sense of sarcastic humor he has is something that I have in life, and I've kind of brought into the role. I had not read it before, and then I got the role, and we got the book, and I read it, and I thought the book was great. I think it's really, really well done. I think that while in some ways it is just a little bit dated, which I think the movie does a great job of freshening it up with today's society, I think that the message is just so well done, and I think it's such a well done story. And of course, my character wasn't in it. I thought it was a great read. I think it's a book that I think the message is just so prominent, and then I think the movie does a great job of also bringing it up. But I thought the story was so well, and how it wasn't it's not really cliche because the ending is sad, and it's not really what you think is going to happen. They don't end up together in the end, and that was something that I really respected, is that this isn't a super just cliche high school love story. I know that they're always worried about like differences they change from the book, and of course you're going to have the people like, oh well, this wasn't in the book, this is different. I think for the last scene of the school dance, they were originally going to like have it rain, because it was supposed to rain outside, and then we all run in. And the problem was that it was like 30 degrees. It was freezing outside, and they have all these extras, and everyone was freezing cold. I mean, after every cut they did, we would run into little heating rooms, and they're like, we're just worried about hypothermia of the kids. So then I think Grace's mom had the idea. She's like, why don't we just do snow? And so then we did snow instead of rain, or the sprinklers turn on, I think, or something like that. That's how it is in the book. And the little changes like that they made were something that, where you're always going to have the people who disagree with that, I think kind of make the movie more unique and special. And it was also easier for me because my character wasn't in the book, that I didn't have to like be like, I have to adhere to exactly what this character was like, or else I'm going to get hate. And, or I'm not going to hold up to what Jerry wrote in his book. Drawing from a character in a book is something that can be difficult, but I think is something that is really, really cool to have that source material to draw from. So. I remember being on set and the director's like, all right, you giving the food to him is like the nicest thing you've ever done in your life. And so that was funny. But I think that that's true, and that the message of, I agree, when that happens to people, you do always become a little distant. And I think the important thing is people getting over that and working through the struggles and the fights that a friendship is inevitably going to have. And I think that my character does go through that. And I think that, Stargirl herself helps with that, of the whole being true to yourself and all of that. But I think that is something interesting I hadn't really thought about, is that it does explore how, when friendships have their inevitable fights, it's important to just move on, because life is so short. Who cares about a petty fight? Just get over it. It's not a big deal. And I think that it actually does show that really well. Yeah, so the biggest way to find me is on my Instagram at cbford1. That's my biggest thing. Once quarantine ends, the hope is that I'm going to be auditioning a lot. School's out, so I can focus on that more. I'm just kind of getting through school, getting through quarantine, and once that's done, I hope to hit the ground running. I think they're both unique in their own ways. I think streaming services are great. I think they're the future of the industry, especially during this time. I mean, Ike was saying afterwards, I'm like, thank God that this movie was out in a streaming service and not in theaters, or no one would have gone to seen it. I do think that streaming services are the future. I do think that there's nothing that beats going to a movie theater and seeing a movie in theatrical release. I think there's nothing that beats that special moment. So I think both hold a special place in my heart. I think I would love to do more streaming service work, and I think I would really love to do some theatrical releases.
Thank you for watching The Sarah Scoop Show. Head to sarahscoop.com for more.